Hi everybody, Stuffin' Things here. Welcome to a Stuffin' tutorial. This is my take on how to heel flip. So let's get started. Here's an overview of what we're going to talk about, and there are timestamps in the video, so down below if you want to jump to a certain section, that's just fine. Tricks you should know. You definitely need an ollie. You need an ollie where you're very comfortable with it, and you need an ollie where the back wheels come at least a couple of inches off the ground. It does help to have some other basics underneath you just because you're that much more in control of your board and you're used to landing on it. Front side 180, back side 180, maybe a pop shove it or a front side shove it would also be beneficial. All right, let's move on to foot position. And as we talk about foot position, I want to share something with you that I learned from Robby Hargreaves from Braille. There is a center line running down the middle of your board. When you set up for an ollie, your feet are right on this center line because you're balanced. As we set up for a heel flip, we're going to move our front foot forward in the direction of the toes and our back foot backwards, but we keep that weight distributed over the center line this way. And so here it is with my actual feet. My front foot, I definitely hang my toes over the edge. I can see all four bolts. I like to be just behind my back bolt with my front foot. I also hang my front foot out so that I can feel the edge of the board under the crook of my toes. I can almost bend my toes right around the edge of the board. That's a magic spot for me. As we talk about all these foot placements, play with your own foot placement. Try moving your foot out more, in more, up toward the nose, back toward the middle of the board. Figure out what works for you because everybody's a little bit different. Now let's talk about the back foot. I do a lot of my pop on this trick with my big toe. I have my foot way up on the edge of the tail and my big toe is doing most of the work. But again, play with this foot, figure out what works for you. Maybe you want to be way up on the tail, maybe you want to be closer down by the pocket. All right, so let's move on to what I like to think of as pop and load. But before we actually do that, let's talk about your shoes really fast. Use an older pair of shoes, if you have one, to start working on your heel flips because this is going to destroy your shoes. Heel flips and kick flips are really rough on the shoes, especially when you're learning. So what we're going to do is we're going to crouch down so that we can use our legs to jump up, get our momentum going up into the air. And we're going to pop with that back foot, and we're also going to roll the ankle of our front foot. And that's the first most important step. My goal here is to roll my ankle so that my shoe is sort of wedged into the pocket and it's loaded. That's why I call it pop and load. It's loaded, ready to do this big flick action. So at this point, I'm going to borrow a page from Kyro. What you should do as a practice step is stand on the tail of your board and practice rolling your ankle. Just the roll. Start with a really small step. Roll your ankle and try to wedge your shoe into the pocket of the nose. And now with our foot in that position, kind of wedged into the nose pocket, now we can flick. The flick in a heel flip is kind of weird. You don't use your toes to sort of fling it like you do in a kick flip. I use the whole side of my foot and sort of the top side area of my shoe. So let's break this one down and look at what we have so far. I'm starting to rise up. I'm going to go into the air. I pop that back foot as I roll the ankle of the front foot. And from here, I'm going to flick by kicking my foot out, kind of like I'm just going to kick a ball, like I was playing kickball and I'm going to send that ball somewhere. So let's break that down a little bit more. For the motion of the flick itself, I like to think of the flick as a kick at about a 45-degree angle in the direction between the way your toes are pointed and the direction of the nose of the board. This kick goes out at that 45-degree angle, but also out and kind of up. Do not kick down toward the ground or you will never get your foot out of the way of the board. At first, you're going to want to do this flick, this kicking motion really aggressively. You want to kick hard and fast. You want to get that foot to get the board to move, but you also need your foot to get out of the way so that the board can rotate. Let's look at another one because I think this one's a really good example. We pop, we roll the ankle, and I love how much I wedged my entire shoe into the pocket and into the nose. And then from here, I'm simply just going to kick out at that 45-degree angle, and the board comes around. And now that we're talking about the flick, let's talk about weight distribution really fast. That means, where is my weight between my feet and where is my body leaning as I execute this trick? What I like to do is think of it in that same direction, the 45-degree angle that our foot is going to kick. That's also the way I'm sort of leaning. Not actively leaning, but picturing it that way so that the board, after it does its rotation, will be under my feet. If you've tried tricks like shove-its or any flip tricks and the board goes in a weird direction and it's not under you anymore, that's because of your weight distribution. Sometimes we need to be more on our toes, more on our heels, leaning forward, leaning backward. It depends on the trick. But on a heel flip, I like to lean a little bit forward toward the nose and a little forward toward my toes as well, that 45 that we talked about earlier. Okay, so the board is flipping, it's reasonably under your feet, but now what? After the flick, what do you need to do to make sure you can finish this trick? The key for me is pick your knees up and pull them all the way up into your chest if you can. Just visualize it that way. A common mistake for me is that I brought my feet back toward the board and my front foot inevitably will hit the board, get in the way, and it'll mess up the trick. So get your knees up, keep your feet high, let the board come around so that you can put your feet back on it, aim for those bolts right away like you've done this a million times. Another piece of advice, stolen from Aaron Kyro, is land one-footed to get comfortable with it. If the board's coming around and you can land with maybe your back foot on, you're on the right track. If you're landing well with your back foot on, force yourself to land with only your front foot on. I think that's a little harder to do, but I think it really trains you and pushes you to commit fully to the trick when your front foot can get back on. And so there we are. I think that's everything I can talk about a heel flip. Let me know in the comments, how's your heel flip going? Are you just getting started? Have you been working on them for a while, but you're trying to get better? Are you already a master of heel flips? Let me know. And please don't hesitate to ask any questions. If you're working on this and you'd like to know a little bit more and there's something I didn't answer, please post that question in the comments. And as we wrap up my very first skate tutorial, let me know, is this something that you liked? Is it helpful? Or is it something I should avoid in the future? I'm not the guy that should be teaching skateboarding. But either way, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.